Station. This is Air Force Staff Sergeant Todd Cablon from American Forces Network in Iraq. How do you hear me?
Good evening. We have you loud and clear on the International Space Station.
Good evening. We have you loud and clear on the International Space Station. All right. Greetings from Earth, gentlemen, or should I say from beautiful downtown Baghdad. First of all, I just want to say thank you for letting us be a part of this special event. Having two Army officers on the International Space Station is just great, and I'm here with a group of fellow soldiers, and I know they're anxious to ask you some questions, so we'll just get right down to it. All right. Questions? Sir. Captain Charles from New Texas. Sir, what do you like to know about being an astronaut?
We had a difficult time understanding the question, but we recognize that you're assembled there in Baghdad. We periodically fly over Baghdad. I've taken many pictures of it, and there's not a day that goes by when we don't remember the service and the sacrifice that so many of you are making over there in the service to our country and in protection of our freedoms that we too often take for granted.
Houston, Texas. Also work at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. How did you fix your water processing assembly that you had clogged filters with?
I'm sorry, we missed the question. I did catch that you're from Houston, Texas. Is that right? And could you restate the question?
Yes, sir. How did you fix your water processing assembly? You had clogged filters in it. And I also work at the Johnson Space Center in Houston.
Yeah, I'm not sure we understood the question. Houston, can you help? Okay, thank you. We're going to work on the audio here a little bit. I think that you can hear us just fine. As you probably know, I arrived on the space station the first part of October, launched on September 30th from Kazakhstan, not too far from where you are. And Colonel Creamer here launched about a week and a half ago, also from Kazakhstan. Both of us came up on Russian Soyuz vehicles. It takes 2 days to get here, and we'll be overlapping here on the space station for about 2.5 to 3 months. Colonel Creamer will remain on board after my Russian crewmate Max Sarayev and I return to Earth in the middle of March.
And while we're waiting while we were waiting on Houston to help us maybe with some of the echo and the garble, if you can understand us still, an interesting little tidbit is 2 or 3 commander ships down the line will be joined by Colonel Doug Wheelock, a 1982 graduate of West Point, which I think is the first time that we'll actually have an active duty Army commander on board and taking the high ground as best we can.
I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, the audio is just not coming through. So I know that Houston is working on it right now. Let me tell you a little bit about the crew right now. We're a crew of 5. With the arrival of Colonel Creamer and his Soyuz crewmates, we became a crew of 5. We were a crew of 2 for a few weeks. Prior to that, a crew of 6. The station crew grew to a crew of 6 back last summer in June. By maintaining 2 Soyuzes here on board. Each of them have 3 seats. That serves as our lifeboat, an escape vehicle in case we have to leave in an emergency situation. And we're getting close to the final assembly of the space station. We will complete its assembly in 2010 and transition to full utilization in this international partnership made up of the Russians, the U.S., Japanese, European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. And the Canadian Space Agency.
All right, sir. Can you tell us a little bit about during your holidays? How have your holidays been? If you can still hear us.
I got that question. How have the holidays been? The holidays been great. Actually, for Max and I, we've been here a while. We're halfway through. They were a nice, relaxing break to the pace that we have been experiencing since we came on board. These guys docked 2 days before Christmas. They brought, they arrived bearing gifts. It was great to see them. Of course, we anticipated their arrival for a long time, and we've had a relaxing schedule pretty much between Christmas and New Year's.
And one of the things that we can share with you is being away from family and friends at this time of year is unique for us, of course, specifically being on the space station. But thinking about you guys, we understand that you are also away from your family and friends and are bonding with the troops that you are living with, much like what we do here. This is our home away from home. You guys, of course, are elbow to elbow with your compadres there, and I think that is just absolutely wonderful because that enables us to do what we can do up here, too.
Thank you, sir. We'll go back to the Master Sergeant's question. I think the audio is working now.
Master Sergeant Froh from Houston, Texas. I also work at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. How did you fix the clog filter for the water processing assembly up in the space station?
Let's see, the water processing assembly, how did we fix? I think you're talking about the urine processing assembly, right? If we fix that, we have not fixed that. So we're currently collecting urine and storing it as far away from us as we can. And we're having to take the water that we have stored on board in reserve and process that through the water processing facility to drink on board. It's an actually very interesting aspect of life here. Not a whole lot unlike the field experience that you have there, where you have to improvise a little bit and make do with what you have, and also get by and operate and live with less than what you otherwise would.
One thing Jeff did not mention is we only have 5 people on board right now, and we have 6 sleep stations. And one of the storage places for the extra urine is in that 6th sleep station. We just won't tell the next inhabitant that, okay?
And by the way, thank you for your service in 2 counts, both in the military as well as in the space program. Your service in 2 counts.
Hi, I'm Tim Donovan from the 32nd Brigade of the Wisconsin National Guard, Wisconsin, the home of Deke Slayton, Jim Lovell, and Mark Lee, among others. I'm wondering if the Earth will ever be the same to you after you've seen it from that incredible vantage point.
I think for anybody who has seen the Earth from this incredible vantage point, as you describe it, will never see the Earth in the same way. When we're on the Earth, we see obviously very limited. In some places, we see just a tiny little area that we can observe at any given time. For example, I grew up in Wisconsin on a small farm, and I didn't have a whole lot of exposure outside of that, especially in urban environments. And of course, then you get on your first airplane ride, and your whole world changes. And when you get on your first spacecraft and you go to orbit, of course, it changes again. To be able to view the entire globe looking out the window, to orbit the Earth every 90 minutes, to spend weeks and months here and see the Earth go through its seasons, it's an incredible place. It's just a fascinating experience to be able to see God's creation from this vantage point.
I can't say it any better than what Jeff just shared with you, but as we go through our working day, one of the treats is to be able to build up enough time ahead of the schedule that they planned for us so we can just simply go and look out the window and take pictures. It is that beautiful. It is that beautiful.
All right, so we've been broadcasting this event over the radio for the past few days, and we were broadcasting the event over the radio, and one of our listeners wanted to know what it is like for PT for you guys that far up there in a weightless environment.
One of the nice things being in orbit is that we can lift a lot of weight. I mean, we can push around tons of weight up here, so that's kind of cheating. So how do you actually lift weights? How do you actually run? And so we have to use other forces other than gravity to help us. For instance, when we're lifting weights on our weightlifting machine, it's called the Advanced Resistive Exercise Device. We're actually pushing against or pulling against a vacuum that we actually build up in big cylinders. And we can do some serious weightlifting on that device. And running, we have a treadmill, and it's just like any old other treadmill, except we've got these long bungee cords that weigh us down and allow us to make contact and not float away off of the treadmill. And we also have a bicycle. So each day we're supposed to be doing 2 hours or more of exercise. And the exercise is not only for our own general fitness, but it's also a countermeasure to the atrophy that we suffer when we're up here, as well as the bone loss that we suffer up here.
Does anybody else have a question? Sure.
Specialist Frower from the 558th Air Support Medical Company at Fort Bragg. My question is, do you guys ever get the chance to call home to your families?
That's a great question, and I know it's a subject that's near to dear to your all's hearts as well, because you want to stay in contact with the family. And obviously in the situation that you're in, you're limited to be able to do that. We actually have pretty good resources on board to do that. We have the equivalent of a voice over IP telephone system that obviously goes through the communication system we have here on the space station, but we can call anywhere on Earth, and we typically call our family every day. Once a week or so, we usually on the weekend, on a Sunday, we have a video teleconference with our family back home. We also have email capability where we can, it's not as quick as it is on the Earth, but we synchronize the email about 3 times a day, so we're able to stay in contact that way. And then people send us electronic greetings through video and other means as well that we get periodically. So overall, we're able to stay in pretty close contact with our friends and family.
All right, anybody? Sure, sir, right here.
How you doing, Lieutenant Mercinger from Houston, Texas? I noticed both of y'all are wearing 2 wristwatches. Could you please explain what the second device is for?
Yeah, that's a great question. We, the old saying is a man with 2 watches never knows what time it really is. We actually have a real live watch that we use that's synchronized to the GMT time, and we're living on Greenwich Mean Time. But the other black device that we have is an activity watch. It's a light sensor, a photodiode, and a little mini accelerometer. And some of the researchers are taking a look at our activity during the day and how active we are versus how restful our sleep is, and they watch the light and activity cycles to see if we're getting a proper amount of rest, if we get disturbed at night. So they're tracking our behavior basically.
Okay. Any more questions on this side? Sure, sir.
Lieutenant Kalich with 32nd Infantry Brigade Combat Team, Wisconsin Army National Guard. I was just asking if either of you two have experienced EVA and if we could get some first-hand accounts on what that's like.
Yeah, I've been outside 3 times, not during this stay on the space station, but the last time I was up here 3.5 years ago, I went out once in a Russian spacesuit and once in a U.S. spacesuit. And then back in 2000, I went out once on a shuttle flight in the U.S. spacesuit. It's an incredible experience. It's one thing to be able to look out the window here and see the Earth and whatnot. It's another thing to actually go outside. And you yourself in a spacesuit are a spacecraft in itself. It's complete with life support systems, power systems, comm systems, etc., to keep you alive and functional outside. The work outside is incredibly challenging. Not unlike a lot of what you do. It's a lot of heavy lifting. You're outside for quite a while, usually 6.5 hours or more. You're in the suit about 8.5 or 9 hours. So it's a long day, but it's a highlight of the entire experience.
Okay, any questions on this side? Sir.
Hey there, Sergeant Ron Wiedeberg, 318th Public Affairs Operations Center. I noticed you guys kind of look like you're upside down. How does your bodies react to that? Your cardiovascular, does the blood rise to your feet, or does it rise to your head? Or just stay still?
Good question.
That's a great question. The truth is that there really is no up and down up here because everything's weightless. When we first launch on the Russian spacecraft and you go weightless, there tends to be a shift of fluids from the lower legs up into the chest and head area, and you tend to see people with moon faces and they get puffy and all the fluid tends to go in that direction. But now once we've adjusted, up and down don't matter to us, and it really doesn't have the blood flow rush that you're referring to.
Interesting. Yes, Captain, back here.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Captain Sherman, First ID Military Transition Team. We communicate a lot with our military partners on the Iraqi side pretty much every day. What is it like working with the Russian partners on the space station every day? What are the challenges? Any funny things happen?
Well, actually, that's one of the most rewarding aspects of the entire experience as well. Both Colonel Creamer and I have worked with the Russians now for over 10 years or so, and we've spent a lot of time in Russia. The biggest challenge, of course, is learning the language, each other's language, so that you can, as you know very well, develop a relationship of trust. But we've become close friends with many of our Russian colleagues, particularly our crewmates. We do trust each other. Like I said, the language is the toughest part of the whole experience, but once you've got some level of ability at the language, it just opens the doors wide open for those relationships. So we've had a great experience working with the Russians overall, both on an individual level as well as a corporate level.
The other thing I'd like to emphasize is that our Russian compadres here on station, I can easily count among my best friends. The humor is really good in both languages. The self-care and the caring for your buddy is also extremely good. I have absolutely total faith in everything we're doing. The interesting background is, I got commissioned in 82, and at that time we were still in the Cold War, pre-wall coming down, and who had ever thought that we would actually be flying on a Russian vehicle together as, equal partners, with their extreme experience in space, and to some degree, their extreme experience on heavy lifting to space stations in space has been wonderful working with these guys. They're really, really super folks. Really, really super folks.
All right, any more questions on this side? Yes, sir.
Major McCrae from Florence, South Carolina, 12th Military Police Command, Fort Meade, Maryland, and the 318th Public Affairs Operations Center. My question is, how have your many years of experience, including military experience, prepared you for what you're currently experiencing in space?
That's a great question. I think that our military experience prepared us for what we're doing in space in the same way that your military experience is preparing you to meet the challenges that you have every day and the challenges that you're going to have in the future. I think all of the things that you appropriate from being in the military are obvious, and those things apply to what we're doing too. The teamwork, the dedication to mission, the whole concept of duty, of trustworthiness, of honor, of serving and service. All of those things are instilled in those that spend time in the military, and all of those things have a direct application to other aspects of life, and they certainly have a direct application to what we're doing here. Perseverance and things like that as well.
One other aspect I think is pretty key is as you go through your learning curve for the military, one of the things that you become acutely aware of is subjugating your personal self for the greater contribution to the team. And I think that's one of the biggest things. We happen to be on the pointy end of the bayonet by flying on the space station, but there's a huge team behind us. And for us to be here is both an honor, but it's also a duty to serve the people who are really operating the space station, which are the ground folks and the researchers. That subjugation is something that is really key with my military background, and I would say most people's.
All right, gentlemen, I believe our time has expired. So on behalf of myself, the American Forces Network here in Iraq, and all the soldiers here, we just want to say good luck to you and Godspeed.
Thank you very much. It was an honor to have you on board the International Space Station today. We thank you for your service and, again, for the sacrifices that you're making in the protection of our freedoms that we're able to enjoy.
You are in our thoughts. We appreciate what you are doing for our families, our country. By all means, stay safe, and can't wait for you guys to get back to your families, too.
Godspeed all.
Godspeed all.